Yo. Today, the expectations. So the class is going to be on false hopes, overcertainty, and egocentrism. So while everyone logs in, we go back to a minute of attitude, of humility, and being honest with ourselves. Simply being ready to admit things we have not seen before. When we want to discover who we are, when we want to grow, obviously there are things we're going to know about ourselves that we did not before. If you hear someone say something that contradicts what you know, the reflex will be to disagree. No, even if they're right, maybe you are wrong, maybe you just learned something different. But the reflex, when you discover something different than what you know, you disagree. It's automatic. When you do personal growth, you want to discover new things about yourself because with time you discovered it felt better. But the first reflex we have when we see something of us that we did not know before, the reflex is to disagree. So it takes a bit of training to be humble and honest with ourselves. We will frequently discover things we did not know about ourselves because it would not be called a discovery. We are not here today, at least, to reaffirm what we already know, but to be ready for knowing more. And that means the reflex of refusing what we see first. It's normal and it is counterproductive in the context of personal growth. So it takes this attitude of humility, but also curiosity. I want to know more. I want, to be ready for there's stuff that I don't know about myself, and probably things that contradict what I already believe about myself. Let's say you consider yourself to be a courageous person, ready to face everything. And then it's time to recognize your fears. Your pride will make you keep the courageous front. I have no fear. This is not fear. It's not fear. So it takes this attitude, okay, of wanting to know. the masks of today, we call them the expectations. We'll start with false hope, then we will cover overcertainty and egocentrism. On the surface, false hope is hope focused on specific things that are outside of you and outside of your control, and often without even objective proof that the thing is going to happen the way you want. My most typical example: I hope dinner will be ready when I get home. That's not a hope, that's a false hope. Or a projected hope, if you want. Any kind of projected hope is a false hope, because it's not the real virtue of hope. You hope for something, and it's in the hands of other people. You have no control over it. And there are chances that it's not going to happen the way you want. So, if you are going back home and you're hungry, and you hope dinner will be ready, and then it's not, you will be more disappointed because of the false hope you built. Okay. So this is a lame example, of course. It's usually not something that causes a dramatic scene in your life. Let's take an example a bit more dramatic. I hope he or she will love me. I hope he or she will say yes. Then our hopes get high. Then your mind is, well, if we never hope for anything, we won't want anything, or we'll never look for it. Let's try not to get confused with what is desire and false hope and responsibility. When we have desires, the responsible thing to do is be objective about it. See if you can satisfy your desire. And if you can, act on it. Try stuff in a way that respects other people's freedom and yours. That is legal, simple. Just be simple. And go and, ask out a person that you want to be out, and whatever goes on in there. The false hope is that wave of energy that rises. It must be true. It must be true. I cannot fail. This must not be a mistake. It is the sum of the fears and the doubts you have that get ready to refuse a situation in its possible negative outcome. And that false hope is built on denial. It uses your denials to build a wall. Like, I just have to forget about the possible negative outcome and fully focus on the positive. This will work. And then you go ask a person out, and he or she refuses. And the amount of energy you invested in the false hope will explode in your face and make things much, much worse. the amount of energy invested in false hope on a negative outcome will immediately turn into despair. If the outcome of the event was positive, that energy will be put on standby. It will wait in your subconscious. The day that the relationship will be over, it will come back and it will explode in despair anyway, in addition to the heartbreak. Okay. So the energy we put in false hope explodes in our face, in our heart, in our guts, in despair. So profound disappointment, that's despair, desesperate. Does it exist in Spanish, desesperación? No sé. So false hope is a lack of objectivity. It's a way of the ego of dealing with not enough previous personal growth. When you don't have courage or objectivity or responsibility, or none of those, the fear of failure and the negative image of you would stop you from doing anything because of that, of those resistance to act. But then you have desires that accumulate inside you. So at one point, the desire becomes stronger than your negativity, your doubts, your fear. So you must act. You must satisfy your desire. Get the food you want. Seek a person to love or be loved by. Go for a job that you want, that you're just afraid not to have. Your desires augment and become stronger than your resistance to life. But the negativity is not resolved. So you will mask it with a dream. If we do everything we can, it will succeed. So you tell yourself a lie. The truth is, do your best and you will see if it works or not. Just do your best. And if it doesn't work, resolve the situation, move on. It's okay. Detach from the desire and move on. That's responsible. That's courageous. And that is objective. Do your best and try to satisfy the desires that you can satisfy. And always be ready for life. It might work, it might not. And the courage to know if it doesn't work, you will resolve it anyway. You'll take care of it inside. Okay? But negativity sometimes is so strong that you mask it with a dream. It has to work. And then you, I hope so much, but your fears and your negativity is all packed up, growing. Then you act. If it works, it will put you in despair when that project ends. And if it doesn't work, it will put you in despair now. Okay. So sometimes also it's just words. If you're hungry and you say, oh, I'm looking forward to eating. That's objective. We could say, as just a weird word, oh, I hope dinner is ready. But if it's not, I'm just gonna make it. A responsible feeling. But very often when we just verbalize, I hope that, there's a subtle false hope in the back. Okay? So false hope applies to so many areas of life. And let's say an arrogant way to deal with false hope is pretend to be indifferent to your desires. Well, if I'm not certain it's going to work, let's forget it. Okay? Or I don't want to have false hope, so I won't even try. That's arrogant because you're pretending that your desires don't matter. And that actually ends up killing your life force. We're here to experience a few things and mourn a few things in balance. Okay? So if you just don't try to live, you're gonna fall in despair from not even being alive, from not even enjoying half of what you could. That's just an example number, but usually it sounds appropriate in nature. When there's no supernatural involved, we usually have around half of what we want of life and half that we don't. An average in nature. And what we obtained is affected by karma, by dharma, and by prakti, which is things I'll teach another time. Okay. Usually we have some of what we like and we have some that we don't like. And there's things we like we will not have. Okay. A negative person without self-trust will have less than half of satisfaction of life. A third, a quarter, 1/10, just by not trying stuff. And that is a form of arrogance because it is against your own emancipation. It's against your own discovery. Because it could hurt, I'm not even taking a chance. Okay. Eventually, that pain of despair will also grow. And you will need false hope to mask that too. Okay, this won't work, I know, but it has to, it must. And you go for it. And because you are so emotionally complex about it inside, you don't realize that you're hyper emotional about it. And you know what happens when we are emotional about something? We become dumb. We lose a third of our intelligence without realizing it. Because your blood saturates with peptides, hormones, that try to make you feel the anxiety, and other that makes you deny the anxiety. There's a battle. And your brain, just like when you're angry, your brain loses a third of its intelligence. And there's aspects you just don't see. So you try something with less ability to make it work, less objectivity, less feeling of responsibility, less humility. The animal takes over and you throw yourself in an unplanned project and it explodes in your face in despair. Okay? The solution to false hope, first, is to develop the discernment to see it. It is not in the head, it is those waves of energy. Oh, I really hope, like, we're already ready for the despair. There will be anxiety. The fear of failure will rise immediately. Look at those waves of emotion that rise in various projects. And spot your false hope when it happens. So at least you can have a bit of time to deal with it. So to do integration about what's the denials that are rising, based on which emotion. Is there a mask? Victim, savior, persecutor. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. Are you in a state of control, power, manipulation? Or are you still in integrity? It's just a question to ask yourself. Just to see how much you have lost your sense of responsibility because of that emotional wave of false hope. Okay? So to see it before. When you don't see it before, well, on a negative outcome of your attempt, it will explode in despair. Then at least you can recognize it was false hope. Because I'm so emotional about a failure, I had false hopes. Okay? In other words, that's a clue to see it. It's normal to be disappointed when a desire cannot emancipate. Totally normal to have disappointment. But when it is more than disappointment, when the disappointment has another flavor that we call despair, desperation, like being destroyed a bit or a lot, it's more than disappointment of a desire that you have to mourn. There's the negativity crashing on you. That means there was false hopes that you just did not see. Okay? So to diagnose false hope, the discernment to understand what is disappointment and what is despair. Despair is a stress in the system. Disappointment is just a feeling of imposed mourning. But despair is a stress in the system. Okay? So if you have those moments of stress when you have no choice to lose, when there is a physical impact on your health, it is more than disappointment. It's despair. Okay? It's just to help you define it maybe in a new way, in case you did not realize that you actually had it. When there is panic, it is despair. It didn't work, what am I gonna do? Panic is a desperation. You had false hope. You were not responsible and objective in your attempt. You were like, this has to work. Oh my God, it did not work. Okay? Some are subtle. Some are obvious. Some are not obvious, but are still deep in your subconscious. So the stress is strong. Okay? Before knowing the result, while you're just planning the business, while you're just planning going back home for dinner. Okay? You just, in the process, if stress rises about the possible outcome, you have false hope. You have a voice that says, I hope it works. It's not words in your head. It's a wave in your system. False hope is not an intellectual expectation, although it happens in your mind also. It is a tension that builds inside, right? And it's strong. It can still be hidden. Okay? So all of that is false hope. And when you see stress rise about a situation, know that you are building a false hope. And that means do your best to make it work and pre-mourn. Be ready to face detachment and letting go. Okay? For some reasons, I do not see text or messages, so I just see a warning that someone is trying to talk to me, but I don't get it. So I hope everything is fine. Otherwise, sorry for not changing anything. Good. That was a big introduction on false hope. Whenever I give a class about three masks in a context, like the expectations, the first one is always longer because I teach things that apply to all the three aspects. Okay. So let's take 30 seconds just to look inside. Can we at least be honest and admit we have stress that rises about expectations that would become a small or a big despair if it doesn't work? I'll take an example that I had 2 months ago, but that was obvious, and it was still very strong. I hope the quarantine ends soon. It was simple. I was not at peace. It will end when it ends. I'll see people when I see people. It's okay. It was a constant small force. I hope the fucking quarantine ends soon. And I stayed in that state about a month. Subtle wave where it was obvious. And I was attached to something I had no control about. Until I realized, hey, my state of being will not change that date. It won't. Just let it go. Mourn. Accept your peace. Learn to live in peace. And then peace was possible again. Finally. Now there's moments I don't even feel like I would see someone. It's like, yeah, whatever. I could be alone forever. It's okay. Which is not true. I will want to see people eventually. But in my country, it's still quarantine, and I'm good with that. It's cool. But a long-term false hope, we have it when we think about the negativity in our life. Oh, this has to stop. I hope it will stop soon. About any topic. The disturbing neighbors, finding a job, reaching retirement, okay, for your kids to grow and become autonomous. Oh, I hope that happens soon. Whatever situation. It's a false hope. It causes stress inside. Because you're not objectively accepting it will come when it will come. What I can do with my abilities and my power to make it happen faster, I will. But it will happen when it will happen. In other words, to be positive, to have real hope, is I'll do my best, accepting the outcome will happen when it happens. And that means admit humbly you don't control life. Like, it will happen when it'll happen means I don't have the final control on life. So if you have a permanent subconscious control, you know, the mask control we taught previously, trying to control life, it combines very good with false hope. This must happen as soon as fucking possible. It's a false hope. And it's control. And the only thing that does is generate more stress, hinder your sleep and your health. Because if you do your best about any situation, the results you expect will happen when they happen. So trying to control the happening of something you can't possibly control. Like when your kids will finally grow up and be responsible. It's life. It's gonna be years. I had false hope. Not control, because I respected my children, but I had false hope. For them to wipe their ass correctly when they did not. It does take a while. And I had stress about it and I was not at peace. And as a parent, all I had to do is show them again. Find motivations for them to do it correctly. Just to clean their ass alone. When they were like from 1 to 4, okay? Depending on the kid we're talking about. And stop playing with their shit, you know, putting it everywhere on the walls. That was not cool. It was temporary. But that's an example of false hope I had as a parent. So I find it funny now, so I use it as a thing in class. Just to show you this false hope, this stress about eventual outcomes. It's everywhere. Okay. So any amount of false hope we have, big or small, is directly removed from our pool of peace. That's a bad metaphor. It doesn't really work that way. It's a metaphor, okay? Whatever false hope you have about any topic is directly removed from your capacity to be in the state of peace. Control and false hope together is poisonous. It's organized despair. You're planning yourself more than disappointments. Okay, so I hope that entire topic about false hope was inspiring, because it is constant, little waves here and there. And it is one of those things that you probably would not accept about yourself. This is not how I know myself. I know myself as responsible, planned, organized, so that project will work. Yeah, until it doesn't, right? And then that despair gives you no choice. There are things you don't control. Focusing on doing your best to satisfy your various desires is the most beautiful thing you can do for yourself. And do it with the humility to embrace failure and mourn the desires that will not accomplish. Okay. Anyone who had a failed marriage will understand that. A marriage does not fail. In nature, relationships move on. It's like that. It's nature. But in the cultural conditioning we have, a successful marriage lasts forever. Sometimes it does, to the benefit or as a curse. You see it how you want, right? Sometimes some people really were happy together their entire life. A lot, actually. But sometimes they're not. A few. It's life. Things change. We are animals in a jungle. Okay? Good. All right, take a breath. In the, I don't know, maybe 15 years of teaching emotional integration, I have rarely thought about this one because of the complexity and because of how much the students argue with the teaching. Yeah, but this and this was that and that was this. It was like that. It's like, it's okay. You did not suffer enough to understand the wisdom. When you've suffered enough, it's obvious. When you have not felt despair enough, it's easy to deny false hope. I understand. It is a coping mechanism. You will probably have more. It's okay. Let's move on to over-certainty. And I'll explain maybe over-certainty and egocentrism like interwoven. Over-certainty is again, when you desire something, it's about wanting to execute a desire, to emancipate yourself, or simply out of greed. You want something, and instead of wondering if you could have it, if it was your place or time, you just go and take it. There's a seat. You want to have a nice seat at the theater, you take the nice seat. Some people at the theater in their countries, there's numbers and letters. You know, you have an appointed seat. And instead of looking at what your seat should be, you disregard the information and you go for a good seat in the theater. It's just a bad example, but I want to start with something easy. And over-certainty is you disregard reality to just go and take what is best, okay? And then nothing happens, so it's okay. You have what you wanted. Or someone comes in the theater and you have their seat that they paid because it's the best seat for them too. And then, oh, I'm sorry, I thought I could take this seat. Or I thought It was mine, And sometimes you will lie to mask an overcertainty. And sometimes you really did not realize it. But there is a lack of responsibility in overcertainty. Rarely it would really be a mistake, but it happens. Just mistakes. That's okay. Life happens. Oh, okay. I didn't know. I didn't know it worked like that. The first time I went to, I think it was Denmark. I'm Canadian. We don't have seats in the theater. First come, first serve. So I did not know about it. That was a genuine mistake. Okay, so it happened to me, so, But many times it is overcertainty. Now I'll use another example from my teenagers. I was certain that girl wanted the kiss. So I kissed her. And I went in with the tongue to find the closed mouth. That was overcertainty. I had misread. A teenager easily misreads stuff because my feelings were strong. I was unexperienced in life. So everything I saw was of her responses was filtered by my false hope and my desires. So I just took something for granted. She wants it too, it's clear. Overcertainty. She had not said no, but there was not even a context for the question to be asked. Ever since that time, I say, now I ask, may I? Doesn't happen often anymore, but I would be polite enough. Someone a few years ago even told me, that is so not romantic. Just fucking go for it. Yeah. Because it was a yes. But if it was a no, don't want to hurt people's feelings. And then feel rejection, okay? So that's another more sensitive example of overcertainty. Okay? The difference between overcertainty and false hope, okay, that can cause misinterpretation. You apply for a job, you're certain you will have the job, and you call it overcertainty. And then you don't have the job. Being certain you had it was false hope. It was not overcertainty. Because you didn't obtain it to validate which one it was. Okay, that's false hope. Overcertainty is when you do go and take something for granted. So both are very close, false hope and overcertainty. Okay, they're built on the same system. You are masking the possible failure of a project or the possible disappointment of a desire by taking for granted. Okay, so sometimes you have both at the same time, false hope and overcertainty. Okay? They both act in the same. No, it's an expectation anyway. But overcertainty, you would just move on and take it. Okay, steal a kiss from someone, or just go and take the last piece of cake without realizing there's 8 people, there was 8 pieces. That's your second. Oh, there's more. I'm just going to take it. Okay, without caring for the feelings of the others who wanted also to have their rightful share that they had a right to. So that's an example of overcertainty. You just, it's close to egocentrism because you just think about your immediate desire. And you disregard the interconnectivity of all people. You disregard compassion, basically. Interconnectivity is we are all connected. And everyone in our actions, we have an impact on other people's feelings and states of beings. And the objective of compassion is to allow everyone an equal share of emancipation, knowing that everyone will also have to mourn something at some point. And sometimes it's my turn to mourn and not emancipate. Compassion is to be in service for other people, to enjoy something, find liberation of suffering, or discover a pleasure or a happiness. Okay, it can be avoid suffering or find happiness. It can be in both directions. Okay, just from their state they get better in emancipation. Okay. That's compassionate. So for the benefit of all beings, benefit being happiness. And overcertainty disregards the compassion. And sometimes compassion is for you. You will also have your right to emancipation. But overcertainty is all about me. What about me? Well, there is something I wanted, so I freaking take it. Without considering the impact on others. So I will let you be creative on how it applies around you and how to recognize it. I could take more examples, but it's just none part right now. So I just hope you will understand. Now, I just said the word hope. It's not false hope. I'm not going to live despair if you don't understand. Hope is a word. It is used in communication. If I say, I hope you'll understand, it means what it means. Okay? I wish the best out of compassion for you to understand. Whenever you use, it's just an example of whenever you use one of the 21 words you learn in integration, in their actual context of a dialogue, sometimes you're using the word to communicate, and it's not referring to the max of an ego. Okay? I repeat that because a reflex we have when we learn the 21 masks of the ego is we never use those 21 words ever again for anything else than the reference to the ego. So you hear the word control, it's evil, it's bad, it's ego. Actually, control can be just the remote control of the television. Control can be how to organize, manage your business, have a form of control over things. Control is a word. Hope is a word. It is used in dialogue. Okay, so sometimes you use it to communicate ideas, and we're not referring to the mask of the ego. Okay, so just be careful not to become a New Age freak about it, and also don't judge New Age freaks, because I'm one of them. Okay, it's just a word, but I am a New Ager. Sometimes I judge New Agers fully knowing I am one of those. Okay, I am a freaking New Ager, like for real. I say New Agey things all the time. Okay, so that was just a parenthesis because I just said the word hope after talking false hope. Good. Overcertainty is a pattern that you have that is subconscious. And when you do your declaration of income tax, you'll just say, well, everyone does it. I just did that because we put the numbers like this to save money. I just thought it was okay because everyone does it. And according to the law, everyone does it in order to abuse a maximum of the system. And you just did it too because everyone else does. So, well, that's what everyone does, so I do it too. If everyone abuse, I can be an abuser without feeling guilt because everyone does it. Okay, over certainty. I thought that was the way to live. Okay, so a disregard for compassion in order to just gain more. Okay, that's just another example. And then I'll let you, find out the rest, because we want a bit of time, a short time, to speak of the third expectation, egocentrism. In egocentrism, it's not a possible doubt if you had the right or not. You just go and you take it. In overcertainty, sometimes you know, subconsciously or consciously, you know that something is wrong or that something is not compassionate, and you just take it. Oh, I was just certain. Like you had a wrong vision of the world, filtered by I just want to satisfy my desire. With egocentrism, there's no place for misinterpretation. You know. Actually, you don't care if something is yours or not. You just take it. Like, yeah, I want a second piece of cake. The other was not fast enough. Fuck you. You take the next cake. You're too slow to eat your dinner. I take the last cake. You lost it. That's it. Egocentrism is I don't care. I'll just go and take it. Now, it will look like overcertainty when you lie to yourself. Somewhere you know something is not yours to take. Or you know, at least you should ask if you can. Take the last piece of cake, get that kiss, take a space, okay, a chair. Egocentrism will look like overcertainty if you lie to yourself. And we do. Oh yeah. We don't realize because it's built with denials. Denials is in there. And we just take something for granted, but it's egocentric. I satisfy my desires. I don't care what the others will experience out of it. Again, it disregards compassion and equality. So egocentrism, when sometimes we don't even lie to ourselves. I mean, you're arrogant and you know it. You just go. There are people like that. They also tend to combine it with the persecutor mask. Like, screw the others. Just, I live for me, you live for you. Screw the others, I do that. And then you take care of yourself only. Okay? For your compassion to be complete, it must include you. Sometimes people put that phrase, on a post somewhere with someone who said it. But so many people said that I'm not going to quote who, okay? I know famous authors, philosopher. I said it once before anyone said it before me. So I don't owe credit to the Dalai Lama, although he did say it. And I love this guy's wisdom. It's awesome. So, egocentrism, sometimes if you play the victim, you will fear egocentrism. Okay, be careful with that. Like, I can't satisfy my desires in case it prevents someone else from satisfying their desires. And then you never give yourself what you want. Okay? That's a fear of egocentrism. Do not mistake it for real egocentrism. That's a lack of self-love. You should have some of the things you want in life. You should not always be the one suffering, mourning, letting go. It's fun to emancipate in life. Try it, enjoy it, and also let go of a lot of it, of course. Find balance, and don't be so greedy, but enjoy life in a way or another. So the fear of being egocentric and taking something that would not be yours, that's just self-hatred, okay? And then as a victim, you let others abuse of you. Their egocentrism will take whatever they want from you, okay? Ever saw that? Someone that abuses of a situation because no one defends themselves about it. You've seen that. So these are people afraid to be egocentric or too afraid to be heard if they talk, if they express themselves, combined with one who knows they won't talk and he just stays. That is egocentrism. Okay? So egocentrism disregards interconnectivity and compassion. Egocentrism simply does not care. I take it. Okay? And it would look like overcertainty if you lie to yourself. Oh, I did not know, but actually you did. You just, flush the information and then you pretend. So it was not that mask of egocentrism. It was this mask of overcertainty. Because you had the false hope that it has to work anyway. All of them are mixed. So, usually egocentrism will lead to guilt. If you remember, guilt is not if you've done something right or wrong. Guilt is to feel not loved about something, okay? About an action. So you act with egocentrism, you're happy that you satisfied your desire, but you obviously know that others are unhappy with you. It will probably develop guilt. People hate me because I acted out of egocentrism. A typical reflex of an animal is to say, screw the others anyway. I will keep having what I want. I don't care if they hate me. That's egocentrism padded with all the persecutor mask, power trip, okay? All of those are so focused on being an evil person, basically. But we do that in a subtle way sometimes. Just take and disregard the guilt, disregard if others will suffer about it. I just keep going because, hey, that's how to survive. Well, if you want to stay a monkey in the jungle, you can see yourself that way. But life will teach you. Guilt will pile up. Okay? And then it's not going to be the hatred of others. It's going to be your own on yourself. Your own self-hatred for being such an asshole. Okay. That was a class on the expectations, false hope, overcertainty, and egocentrism. False hope is preparing yourself for despair. Overcertainty is arrogantly taking things for granted. It's literally a repression of any possible compassion. And egocentrism is violence. In a subtle or obvious way, egocentrism is violence against others or against yourself. It bluntly disregards the happiness of others or even your own. Even against your own happiness. You just take stuff. Greed to its paroxysm. Well, to its, worst version. Now, I took the worst example of egocentrism just for it to be obvious. But remember, it is subtle and it comes in waves. But I want it. But I want it. And there's a wave of, all I have to do to have it is not care about the others. So you have a wave of greed, of disregard compassion. Just go and satisfy yourself. And you'll have this wave in the 3 expectations. Okay? And it will be subtle waves and sometimes strong waves. And it belongs to you then to recognize when it rises. Eek, that was an intense class. That was a dark topic. It is required for us to practice seeing false hope, over certainty, and egocentrism. It's important to practice, to feel that wave of expectation and see how arrogantly it will change your choice. And while that wave is active, that feelings removes 30% of your intelligence. So it becomes a challenge to even deal with it. Patience and discipline in your personal growth. You will win. You'll get better. One wave at a time, one pattern at a time. You will learn to master yourself and stop obeying your animal all the time. You can do that. Be positive about it. This is the good hope. Keep doing your best, and eventually you will see the positive sign of it. We just don't know when. That is the good hope. Just stay positive about it and let go of control of when it's going to manifest. About any topic in your life, have good hope, real hope, which is I'm going to do my best and some good will come out of it eventually. Just keep doing your best. You can make this. I believe in you, and you can believe in yourself too. All right. Peace. See you next time.